Hi, and thank you for joining us today. We are going to talk about the spiritual dimensions of conscious birthing, prenatal communication, and humanity's evolution. And today on our Sunday conversations, we have with us Julie Gerland. Julie, thank you so much for accepting this invitation and being with us today.
Thank you so much, Susanna. It's a great joy to be with you and, of course, to be talking about such an incredible topic.
Yes. So before we dive into our topic, let us know a little bit about yourself.
Great. Well, let's go back early in life. I was born and brought up in Hong Kong with British parents. And very young, I realized that, in fact, I didn't actually live things like a lot of other people did. So quite surprisingly, it was difficult for me to actually go to school because what I was seeing, what I was living was not fitting into that box. So fast forward to 16 when I had a very deep spiritual experience that put me in touch with this unconditional love, which is in everything, this light, this web of life that is everywhere and in all of us, and that it's so intelligent. And so there I was at 16 in a country that I didn't know, with no money, but living this experience. And I thought to myself, well, if this love exists and this intelligence is in everything, why do we suffer? And so this preoccupied me from 16 to 21, where I went round the world and did all kinds of different service projects and built centers for children in the slums in Hong Kong, all kinds of different things, thinking that that would help humanity, that we could live as one global, thriving human family in harmony with this unconditional love and light. Just seemed obvious to me. And yet, every time I thought, but that's not it. We're not getting to the bottom, to the core of why do we get cut off? And then I came across the teaching of a spiritual teacher called Omraam Mikhail Ivanhoff. And in his teachings, he says that if we were to look after pregnant mothers in just 2 generations or 50 years, we could close all our hospitals and all our prisons. And I cried. And I said, that is it. So, of course, I was 21, 22. I didn't know anything. Nobody in those days, we're talking about the early 1980s, nobody knew anything about pregnancy. There was no ultrasounds. We didn't know. So it was a huge leap in consciousness to know that we are conscious in the womb. And the first thing for me was to go inside my own story, what happened to me, because we've all been through that, and start asking questions. So this began a lifelong mission to understand, I would say, from the inside out and go very deep into what is human incarnation and how does this early experience, which is subconscious, because we tend to think, well, we don't remember our birth, so therefore it doesn't count. But nothing could be further from the truth. So I worked with couples starting in 1982 when I had a swimming school. Mothers would turn up pregnant for me to teach their child pregnant with the next one. And so the pregnant mothers were coming to me. And then I went on to create my own program, preconception to after birth, then went on to bring this to the United Nations. And we're carrying on now, bringing this to the world.
That's that's wonderful, and thank you so much for sharing that personal experience with us all. Through your path, through your experience, the work that you have been doing, how do you think that couples and especially pregnant mothers can communicate with their baby and enhance the baby's development?
You know, the biggest one word is love. That for me is if we could put love into everything, we'd be done. We'd be back into that primal source, which is love. So the most important thing is not to get too much in the head and worry, should I do this, should I do that? Because when you're worrying or you're in a state of stress or fear, you're not loving. So we know that you love, but it needs to be in the body love, which for me means secreting oxytocin, the love hormone. So when that mother is feeling in her body expansion, well-being, connectedness, she is secreting oxytocin. And then she connects with her baby through this love by expressing, I'm with you, I love you, I'm your mother, we're together, we are one. And this life here is absolutely fantastic. Yes, life has its ups and downs, but guess what? We learn, we grow, and we will continue doing this together. So that would be, for me, would be the beginning. But then obviously, there's so much more that both the mother and the father can actually communicate with their unborn child. It's, it would take hours and hours, a whole course, to really go into the depths of this. But what we do know is that this becomes the subconscious programming for that child for the rest of its life, or until the human being changes it. So what an incredible window of opportunity to not just eat well, sleep well, bring the physical material that the child needs, but we're building the baby's emotional body, its capacity to love. And that's what's missing in the world. This empathy, this connection where we feel one. And this we get in utero, or we don't get it in utero, and our sympathetic nervous system is predominant, which means we're ready to fight, or to run, or to freeze. And that's what we see mostly in human beings today. So we want parents to be able to change this through communicating with their unborn child.
Yeah, that's very interesting in a way that it brings us to our next question, as you were talking about our, prenatal care system, our birth practices. What needs to change? Because we're not just talking about the consciousness of parents, we're also talking about the consciousness of professionals, of families.
Exactly. And that's really it, to get a maternity to live in love and connection would be the biggest help we could do for the whole of humanity. Because what we do know is stress and fear is contagious. So if we've got a mother who's connecting with her baby in a maternity situation, be it at home or in a birthing center or in a hospital, if you've got people around who are stressed or in fear, my God, what could happen? And that kind of, which is omnipresent in our societies. There's almost nothing that's more frightening than giving birth, whether people think it's for the pain or life and death situation. And this is communicated to the mother at a time where she needs to be open, dilated, in love with life and her baby. And these two currents are at war. We can't have them both in our body at the same time. So my ideal, and we are working with some hospitals on the idea anyway, to help all the staff of the hospital, to maternity hospital, to be able to choose consciously their own state, because it is a choice. And one of the most beautiful experiences was I was giving a workshop in this maternity hospital in India. And the second day, the head of these hospitals came and said, Julie, before you continue with your workshop, can I share a story? I said, well, of course. So she said, well, yesterday after your workshop, I was in the corridors of the hospital, and she said, I overheard and watched this scene. So she said there were two obstetricians, women, and they were obviously not in a very good state. Something was happening. They were not good. And one was about to go into a birthing room in that state. And the other one stopped her and said, oh, you can't go in like that. And she said, like what? She said, but you're stressed. She said, after Julie's workshop yesterday, she told us that our stress would affect the birthing mother. And so both of them stopped, closed their eyes, did what I had taught them to do to inhibit the stress hormones and fire up the love and well-being hormones. They then had a big smile on their faces. When they felt ready, they went into the room. And Julie, yay! What if
Wonderful. That's
everybody did
wonderful.
that?
What that must have done to that baby, to that mother.
And it's a seed for me, just that experience, to imagine that all hospitals, even not only maternity hospitals, because we can't heal in stress and fear either. And how much stress and fear is there that needs to be changed into love?
That's a beautiful story. I remember when I talked with one obstetrician, and he is very much pro humanized birth, to have practices that have, that are centered in the mother and the baby experience than just on the technical part of birth. And I asked him, what did it change? And he said, I was not trained to have that consciousness before. It changed when I was educated. And then my attention, instead of just being in, just making that baby come out, I was suddenly involved in a much deeper process. And I was actually looking and sensing and being conscious, aware of the mother experience and the baby experience. So suddenly I came out now from the birth room feeling fulfilled, engaged in all that experience, like I'm feeling blessed because I was part of that story instead of me being the center of the story. It's incredible what he said, me being the center of the story and just getting my job done.
What you've said is so beautiful, because I often talk about this. You've got, on one hand, you've got the male dominant left brain. There's something in there. It's got to come out. You pull. That's a guy thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just incomplete. And then you've got the process. Woman is, and her body is nature, and everything happens in nature as a process. You don't just see something suddenly happen. It develops like a flower that opens gently. Everything opens and moves on and transforms like we were talking about the spring, the seasons. And so when you go into the right side of your brain, you are in this expanded awareness and in the process, the field of process. And I think we don't need to replace one by the other now, but put the two together and work as a real human being, where we have both sides, both hemispheres of our brain working in harmony, and with our soul and spirit working in harmony with nature, which is our body.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I would like to highlight today, is because many women are afraid of birth. They were even taught to be afraid of birth and have, challenging experience. So what would you say to them?
Exactly. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that if you're afraid of something, of course you will attract it, but you actually create it. Why? Because when a mother is in the process of giving birth, so she's in labor, we talk about contractions. But actually, let's look at it another way. It's not that the body is contracting, it's that the body is opening. That's what happens. So we need to change our language and understand when there's no fear, but love. What happens when we're in love, we expand. And so when the mother embraces her and has trust in her process, she opens, secreting her own oxytocin, and her body works exactly as it is designed to do. And it is not designed to be painful during childbirth. So this is kind of what we could say as the new addition, is that yes, if you are in fear and you feel alone and cut off from infinite intelligence and love, you will give birth in pain. That's true. But if you move into the sphere of love and oxytocin by choice, then your body will be able to work perfectly as it's designed to do, which is comfortable. Intense, yes, but comfortable. So
yeah, and women have that capacity innate within themselves. So
completely.
having all this conversation here, let's talk a little bit about our societies. What would you like to see society change for better support a conscious pregnancy, a conscious birth, because it will have ultimately, impact in our societies.
Yeah, well, it's a kind of a chicken and egg story because you've got the mother who is birthing humanity, and humanity is the societies that we've created. And that's the result of the mother's work, but mostly unconscious and in fear. So if we change the paradigm, we have to first look at a woman and a mother differently. So when we see her as the life giver, when we see and validate her wisdom, her innate wisdom, I said this at the United Nations, is that mothers or women are mandated by nature. That was a bit of a shock. But yes, nature is more intelligent than the people, governing this world. Let's face it, and receive that. And it's nature herself that has given mother this innate in all mothers. Okay, so whether it's a cat or a dog or a horse or a gorilla, the mothers know what to do innately. So when we validate this in mothers, in women, we validate that it's not left brain school understanding, but that inside she knows, and it's been given to her by nature. Otherwise, there would be no humans left. Okay, so because she's been birthing and bringing children up to their full potential for how many thousands of years? Hundreds of thousands, perhaps, right? So that's really how we see mothers and how we see women fundamentally has got to shift. For me, that's the first thing. And then comes a huge respect, as she is the mother of humanity, or future mother in the younger, teenagers, that she, when she brings a child into the world, she is working. She's bringing in a future citizen. She is co-creating with nature in her to bring about this new human being. And so she would have to be given, or I would say, the central place in society, not excluding men, but as I said, with the two hemispheres, but that men should take their place as a protector, as a guidance, to honor where life comes from, which is through the woman. So this would then be taught in schools, it would be shown, it would be lived, and all our society would be rebalanced around the feminine knowing. We talk about feminine intuition, and it's the butt of most jokes, or a lot of jokes, right? But we could turn that around and now put this on our altar of the most sacred. Is the sacredness of life. It's the sacredness of love. And this has just been totally profaned. So this for me would be really the first steps. And then once our attitude, the paradigm shift happens in our consciousness, then everything else will take its place, because we will act differently. We will do differently. We will feel different.
Mm-hmm. And what would we say to parents, to birth workers, on how they can bring more love, this awareness that you're talking about, this shift in the way that we welcome babies into the world, because this is your work too.
Exactly. So the first thing for me is basically what I've said, is that everybody has a choice between fear and love. I'm talking about now in the body, right? So it's not a philosophy, it's something lived in your body. So that empowerment to say, no, I don't want to, I feel this fear for whatever reason, I'm now going to change it to love. So, and of course, in our courses and everything, we show people how to do this. It's not difficult, but you have to train yourself, because most human beings on this planet are actually addicted to adrenaline because and stress hormones, because it's such a powerful force and hormone. So we need a time to move out of that. And we teach this to our birthing parents so that they prepare for the birth, but in fact, it's a life skill. So when they start doing that, they become more intelligent, because you have energy for your neocortex, you have energy for your intuition, you have your body starts to function completely optimally as it should. And then once we start doing that, I think it's essential that everybody heals their own birth story, because we're reliving that every single day. When we wake up, we are reborn again, and we come back with the same programs. Otherwise, each day we would be different, but we're not, right? So we need to be able to change the programs that we have from conception and put in the new, the 2.0 version, which is the unconditional love. It's the most difficult. People love other people. They'll serve other people. They will sacrifice for other people. But get them to love themselves is very difficult. So accept right back from the most vulnerable time that we've lived, which is from conception, that we are loved. And actually, we are love. We are love incarnated. And that we are one with this cosmic intelligence. Put that back right down deep inside of our being, and everything will change. So we will have couples who love each other and come together and stay together, because it's a union of love. And now, how many couples stay together? I mean, I think we've gone more than 1 in 2, like more than 50% of couples split up, right? So it's more the norm now than a couple who stay together. So I think this is really important. And then the couples would create families where children grow up feeling safe, feeling loved, feeling well. And that's how we'll be able to really close our prisons and close our hospitals. So it's a big program, but it doesn't have to take long. It's taken me a long time, but it's like all pioneers. At first, you're starting out on a fresh, track. But once that track has been gone over many, many times, it's so much easier for the new generations. And I said a few times recently that I foresee a time when children who are kind of 7 or 8 years old, they would realize that they've got a program from their parents. They'll say, oh, I don't like that program I received from you, mom and dad. Go into their bedroom, sit down quietly, and do their updates, just like they would on the computer. So change the program. Can we do it? Yes. Does it have to take long? No. But people have to know how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a wonderful conversation, Julie. Thank you so much for being with us. I know that we can go deeper even in many more topics, so I hope to have you again with us.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for
And
all the work that you're doing. It's such an honor to have you.
And thank you so much for all the work you are doing, the Prenatal Alliance, and all the very best. And let's create a beautiful world together by supporting mothers and parents.
Yes, let's do that. Thank you.
Thank you.